Salakia had to cut the video short for part one of the lesson because my brother called me for something. This is part two of this lesson in regards to the United States must challenge China's missile admiral from the commander of 7th Fleet denounces the firing missiles into international waters. Now, continuing back on with the part two of this lesson, it says the United States must contest the launch of missiles over Taiwan by China, a top U.S. military official said on Tuesday. A 7th Fleet commander, Vice Admiral Carl Thomas, warned that such acts by Beijing could become normal if allowed to go unchallenged. It is very important. We must contest this type of thing. I know that the gorilla in a room is launching missiles over Taiwan, Vice Admiral Thomas told the reporters on Singapore. It is irresponsible to launch missiles over Taiwan into international waters. Thomas warned that if you don't challenge it, these actions could lead to Taiwan Strait being militarized in a similar way as the South China Sea. Right, because that's like a potential invasion, as the island is being surrounded by aircrafts flying through on a daily basis. Then you got missile launches, military drills recently, with the Nancy Pelosi visit about almost 2 weeks ago, as the tensions continue to stir up, as the nation's monitoring the situations over there in the South China Sea next to the Taiwan Islands. So that's what he's getting from that, It says Thomas warned that if you don't challenge it, these actions could lead to Taiwan Strait being militarized in a similar way to the South China Sea. It says the 7th Fleet is being based in Yokosuka, Japan, is the largest forward deployed fleet in the United States Navy, is a key part of the U.S. military presence in the Asia-Pacific region, making the admiral, in words of all, the most significant. It says his comments come amending high tensions between Beijing and Washington after a visit by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to the self-governing island of Taiwan. Pelosi went ahead with an official visit that included members of Taiwanese, with the officials including President Tashi Ing-wen, despite clearing warnings from Beijing and the White House that could damage the bilateral relations with China. In response to the trip, which Beijing considered a violation of its sovereignty, given the international insistence that Taiwan is part of China, the People's Liberation Army, the PLA, launched a military day drill around the territory. Local authorities in Taiwan condemned Beijing for launching ballistic missiles near the island and for disruption of international trade and traffic, comparing to PLA action to those of North Korea. According to the Sun Widong, the Chinese ambassador to India, more than 160 countries representing over 80% of the global population expressed support of Taiwan's territorial integrity following Pelosi's visit to Taiwan. So yeah, these tensions are definitely stirring up even more. It's stirring up even more what they turn right here from, the United States 7th Fleet. He denounces the firing missiles into the international waters, of Beijing sending that clear warning to the United States. Beijing and China sending that warning to the United States as, United States further to support unofficially cooperation alliance ties with Taiwan over the South, over the Taiwan Sea, because you got China and Beijing is still really upset. And they say that's a violation of interfering in business between Taiwan and China. Because China is still under that one China and Taiwan together is still part of under that one governor, one China government policy, even though they have separated each other from the islands. Because you got Taiwan is a self-governing island ever since 1949 of the Civil War ended, and then Taiwan separated itself from China, the mainland, because China still look at Taiwan as part of them, as part of their country and their nation as well too, even though they separated from China, because the islands separated from each other. You got the the Taipei, Taiwan island. Then you got the South China Sea as well too. So these tensions are definitely stirring up and brewing more. As the commander of the 7th Fleet was saying, they condemn of what Beijing did, those firing missile tests and military drills close to the Taiwan island, and there's going to be a potential invasion. And they said this is going to be more increasingly and more number without countering it with military response potentially, So these tensions are definitely heating up between Beijing and Washington and China and United States as they battle it over Taiwan's islands, as China and Beijing continues to be upset with the United States and its allies that's fully supporting Taiwan's self-governor and self-sovereignty over the Taiwan islands, as a potential invasion from China to Taiwan and the islands, That's why you see a lot of military presence going on near the South China Sea and the islands next to the Taiwan islands, So expect to see more increase of these things as it's starting to heat up on an everyday basis. As these nations taking shots at one another, definitely taking huge shots at the United States for protecting Taiwan, and Taiwan been showing their military strength as well too. They upgraded fighter jets, military readiness, and then they are prepared to defend themselves and with the help from the United States as well too, just in case if they of a potential invasion of from China that's invading Taiwan island. They said they're gonna be prepared and be ready for it. So as things looks right now, it seems like Taiwan is on the United States side, against China and Beijing, And I believe the president of China, she made that statement not too long ago, about almost a week now. They said they're not afraid of China, of what they can potentially do, of a potential invasion. They said they gonna be ready, locked and loaded, So these tensions are definitely stirring up, And I'm gonna bring out that Luke 21:9. So these commotions and wars are definitely stirring up. In this situation, these commotions and wars is verbally shots at one another. This is the book of Luke, chapter 21, verse 9. But when you shall hear of wars and commotions, be not terrified, for these things must first come to pass, but the end is not by and by. Right, because you're going to continue to see these things increase more now than ever, in the latter days, So we're not terrified of these things because all these things needs to come to pass, because all these wars are building up, these nations clashing against one another, increasing in the latter days, as we hear these stories on an everyday basis, as rumors of wars increasingly now, times where you're here in the news, you know, of wars or rumors of wars is becoming this a rumor, but it's going to increasingly more become a reality as we're starting to see it now more than ever, you know, of the wars and rumors of wars increasingly being a reality, you know, as the wars and rumors of wars heating up. The nations rising up against nations are definitely stirring up now more than ever on an everyday basis, as I mentioned in the videos. And I stated once again, you know, as it's going to increase now more than ever. These proxy wars, endless wars, commotions of wars, wars and rumors of wars, nations rising up against nations, kingdom against different kingdoms as well too, as it's starting to heat up and intensify in these latter days, you know. So with that, I hope this was edifying through the spirit, power, grace, and mercy of the Yahweh. And I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Wakakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Word Millstone, preaching His word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim scattered through the four corners of the globe, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim that be like unto the speckled bird, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. And until next time, I will say shalom and a ball.